So behavioral science, I promised in the tee up to this that I was going to talk about Chili, because Chili is important and he's adorable, and so we shouldn't overlook either of those things. But my customer lifetime journey, I think, is really well articulated when I think about Chili, because Chili is our new Australian Shepherd Poodle mix. He's our pandemic puppy, as you know, millions and millions of other people around the whole world have picked up pandemic puppies. And so Chili is the start of my customer lifetime journey. So Chili is my problem, not dog food, but you have to have dog food, right? So the traditional thinking that we often see with marketers, if you were a marketer or producer of dog food, is that you're thinking, well, as a manufacturer of dog food, I've done a good job of differentiating my product, and it's got all kinds of really wonderful ingredients in it, and it's got a particular availability through the market, and it's really better than any other dog food in my channel. And so I make it really interesting, and the belief underlying that is that as long as I keep producing as a manufacturer good product, my customers will remain loyal. And you guys know this, that's simplistic thinking, that traditional thinking is just done. We have to get beyond that. By adopting a behavioral mindset, we start asking the question, and this absolutely builds on what Bob was talking about with jobs to be done. What problem does the customer have that we can solve better than our competitors? So behavioral thinking adopts a new lens. It adopts a different perspective on the way that we're going to solve problems. And this is just one way of looking at it. But with this particular problem, let's just play the Chili story out. I figured that with the 15-pound bags at $44 a bag a month, $528 a year in revenue with a 40% gross margin, this company Nutrisource, that we buy our dog food from, is actually making $211 a year in gross margin on just Chili. And how they acquired me is part of the story, but how they keep me going is another part. And why, of course, is the underlying foundation for all of this. Why? We need to be asking why. The behavioral lens asks why. The behavioral lens asks, why do people do what they're doing now? We don't just start with, why would they do something different for me? Why would they become my customer? We have to actually start with, why are they doing what they're doing now? Now, before Chili, I didn't have a why. Dog food didn't matter to me. But once Chili came into my life, I had a problem. My wife and I had to solve this problem of, how are we going to feed Chili? And so Chili is still our why. Chili is still the problem that we're trying to solve, and dog food is just the means to that. So I became a customer because we were in the local pet food shop and it was recommended. We got a great endorsement locally. We also discovered that the product Nutrisource was made by a locally owned family, and it was produced locally. So they used ingredients that actually came from the area where I was living in Minnesota at the time, and the ingredients are very high quality. And that, combined with this very personal recommendation coming from the local pet shop, that was enough to make me a customer. And that's these are some important behavioral science aspects of this, and we're going to talk about them in just a few minutes. But becoming a customer, of course, is just the beginning. The second part is, why remain a customer? Why should I stick around? Why should I continue to be a customer? And the short story is that Chili likes it. It agrees with his system. His body actually processes it really well. It's healthy for him, and he likes it. He doesn't object. That's the first level. The second thing is that it's always available whenever I go to the store to buy it. That's something as simple as not having supply chain issues actually works to the advantage of the manufacturer in keeping me loyal, in keeping me a customer that is committed to the brand. Because if it wasn't in stock, I'd probably find an alternative. And the last is that the local pet food shop provides me with a special program to keep me engaged. one free bag for every 10 bags that I purchase. And it's not a lot. Again, there's $211 worth of gross margin in this for the manufacturer to support something like that. And probably in working with the retailer, they can collaborate on the cost and make this available to me to make it all that more enticing. So there is an incentive for me to continue to be. So my why starts with, well, Chili likes it. And then it's supported by the fact that the product is in stock when I go to buy it. And the last thing is that I do actually have a motivation to seek out this product because I have this get one free for every 10 purchased. So the behavioral science lens is different from what you're used to seeing. It's not the traditional lens on considering the way products are sold, developed, or marketed. We want to think about the two really important aspects of what a behavioral science lens includes. And the first part is behavioral data. With behavioral data, we start to look at transactions with context, because context or environment is an important aspect of deciding how we're going to decide at any given moment. How many times have you had the experience of going into a store to buy, a food product, to buy, let's say maybe you're going to buy apparel, you're going to buy a shirt, and you have a particular shirt in mind, and you don't see exactly what it is that you want, but then you get influenced in the context of that space, and you get a recommendation, you get a referral, you get someone who says, well, there's also this other product that would look really good on you. This other shirt is very high quality, and maybe it's on sale. There's some compelling reason that goes along with this. And this can happen online. Amazon does a fantastic job of making sure that you know that there's other alternatives. So if you're not seeing exactly what you want, there is an alternative. And all that is the context. All that is part of the context in which I'm buying, because that context is actually being created by the retailers, by the manufacturers. And the second big part of behavioral data is that we can look for patterns as things change. My expectations are going to change. Chili changed. Chili changed. Chili grew bigger. Chili went from being a puppy to being 53 pounds. He's a fully grown dog now. His needs are actually different, yet I'm still the same customer. Now, I don't want to suggest that the manufacturer of the dog food expects that we're going to keep buying the puppy chow, the puppy dog food for them forever. Of course, they're going to expect to change. But are you expecting your customers to change? Are you watching the way they change? Are you looking for patterns in how they buy and the kinds of things that they're buying in the sequence that they're buying them, to look for how they as customers are changing and evolving? Because the world is dynamic. You have to be thinking about behavioral data as a continuum, not just a fixed lens. And then, and boy, I will not say this nearly enough, but understanding why is absolutely critical to making sure that you've got a good behavioral lens on, because we have to start with, and forgive me for repeating this, but why are people doing what they're doing now? If we don't start with understanding why they're doing what they're doing now, we're missing an important ingredient to acquiring and retaining customers. I'm going to say this a couple times throughout our conversation too. The map is not the territory. The map can, and this is a metaphor to indicate, sometimes you'll have good data on a customer, and you'll think, well, I know what that customer is because I know that they spent X number of dollars with me in the last 12 months, and here's the trend. I can even tell you that the patterns that they're buying in are this particular way. I want to remind you that what you're looking at, that data, is just a map. And that map is not actually the territory. That map, that data, is not actually that customer, that company, those buyers. You're only looking at a representation of what those buyers are. And so if you're really going to learn why are people what they're doing, you have to start with the humility that says, I have a map, but I don't really have a good view of the territory. And to understand it, I may have to go there. I may have to talk to them. I might need to, guess what? Learn their motivations. Ask them, talk to them, engage them in a conversation. Simply having the chance to exchange ideas so that you understand why people are choosing your product over the alternatives is way more important than just looking at the data. It's not the only piece. You have to have the map, but you also need to understand the territory firsthand. So let's talk about the behavioral science lens. I'm going to give you a couple of tips here that I would want to encourage you to take away from our conversation today. But this is kind of getting into the sort of the more practical aspects of what we're talking about. And I'm also going to be introducing some of the behavioral science that the actual research work that goes along with it. And the first thing that I want to talk about is interpersonal influence. And this gets back to this idea of relationship. Work by Vanessa Bonds, who is at the University of Rochester in New York State in the United States, has done a lot of work to understand what it's like to what happens when two people actually engage. And humans are hypersocial animals. We are the alpha, of course, of the animal kingdom, but we are absolutely amazing when it comes to relationships. It's really, really important for us. And so I want to encourage you to maximize the opportunity that you have to actually build relationships with real customers. Talk with them. Actually sit down with them. It could be in focus groups. This could be in a whole variety of settings. It could be social media. But get beyond just the map and get into the territory. Start to build that interpersonal relationship so that you can actually have interpersonal influence, not just from your side as the product manufacturer or retailer. You actually get to be influenced by them. You actually, in a relationship, right? Influence goes both ways. So we have the opportunity when we're sitting face to face with someone, or we're actually having a conversation or a dialogue, we get to understand someone way more than if we're just looking at their purchase data. So the first thing I want to challenge you to do is actually get out and build interpersonal relationships so that you can actually have influence and you can be influenced by them. That's the first thing. So another aspect of interpersonal relationship is experience, is that we enjoy experiences more when we're with others. So you have an opportunity in the creation of your own marketing materials and your own brand development is to make your products and services more social. Because if there is any social aspect to it, then you get to enhance the experience of the brand with all of those customers. Whoever thought that dog food could be a social thing? But I guarantee you, if that manufacturer said, we're going to have a gathering of people who buy our dog food in your particular city or town, and we're going to gather all the dogs together and have a special day, that would be incredibly powerful. That would be community building in a way that builds brand, that enhances loyalty beyond anything that they could pay me for, because I would actually get connected to the people because of this hypersociality of our human species. So this would be really powerful. And then when you find those people who want to engage at a higher level, ask them to pay it forward. Ask them for a favor. Actually, ask your most loyal customers to do more. And as counterintuitive as that might seem, they're actually in a great position to be the ones who will act as your social media ambassadors, to act as your supporters in retail, or to lead focus groups, or to actually say, I know other customers, or I know other people who could be customers. I could refer you to other customers because of how much I am enjoying your brand and your product and your service. So let's use that personal influence, those personal relationships that we have, in ways that can actually expand using organic growth, the kinds of things that we can do with our products. The second thing that I want to talk about is compassionate curiosity. And this is something that I think that I see marketers missing out on all the time. And because we're so we as marketers, and I'm including myself in it because I've spent years in marketing in my own career, get caught up with the map and miss out on the territory. So we have to start with compassionate curiosity. And this was a concept that was developed by an author and researcher in Indiana by the name of Kwame Christian. And Kwame says that if we start by listening, if we start every relationship that we have by listening, we're actually going to be better off, because then we'll know much more where people are coming from. So I want to ask you, as people who are interested in actually expanding lifetime value and improving lifetime value, how much of that relationship that you're trying to build with your customers involves listening? How much listening are you doing? How much time are you spending getting feedback, not just through surveys, but through actually engaging customers in a way that makes a difference? So it can be social media, it can be focus groups, it can be interviews, it can be anything that brings up this not just interpersonal, but so which would be qualitative, but also quantitative ways to get customer experience. Voice of the customer is a terribly powerful tool that goes hand in hand with lifetime value, and we lose out if we're not matching up our voices of the customer with our expectations of what the lifetime value could be. We've also got opportunity to create in-product responses that can lead to feedback through surveys or QR code links that you can reward, by providing random drawings. And from a research perspective, or from a behavioral science perspective, random drawings are very powerful incentives. That the opportunity, the chance to win something in exchange for me providing my feedback is very, very powerful stuff, especially if the rewards are good. If you've got a really good set of rewards to offer to people, you have to be thoughtful and choosy about exactly how you do that. But offering a random reward or a chance reward for engaging can be a way of enhancing lifetime value, because you're going to be getting good feedback, and secondly, you're actually expanding the population of people who are thinking about the brand. And then I just want to reemphasize these more traditional listening posts when it comes to actually engaging your compassionate curiosity is just have one-on-one interviews. Engage people in focus groups. These don't have to be super sophisticated. I think sometimes it's great can be the evil opposite of good, and it doesn't have to be. Just actually engaging customers in the simplest and most pure form can be really rewarding and really enlightening. So I just want to call your attention to the traditional listing posts are still very, very good. So earlier I talked a little bit about the map is not the territory. And I just want to ask you, which one to use? Which kind of maps do you use? Do you use a map like on the left side of the screen that's going to be very clear when it comes to looking at the roads? This is a really, really good map when it comes to navigating the roads. But what if you wanted to walk? What if the customer wasn't going to be driving? What if they're going to be walking? You might want to look at the map on the right. You might want to understand, well, are there trees or buildings in the way? Or are there even walking paths to get from point A to point B? By the way, these are exactly the same map. It's the same place to just to ease your pain there. But if we're not actually taking into consideration the context in which your listening posts are happening, that the development of your relationships are happening, then again, we're missing out. We need to take those into consideration. We need to be reminded that all of this is happening within a specific context, and the lens that we bring to it is going to matter a great deal. Okay, lastly, I wanted to run through a couple of persuasion and influence tools that you can use that I think are really important in the world that come from the research of behavioral science. Now, these were created by Robert Cialdini, who is a professor emeritus at Arizona State University. He is the godfather of persuasion and influence, and his work is outstanding. It's been replicated hundreds of times with tens of thousands of people around the world. He's done many multicultural studies. His last one was just from a couple years ago, actually comparing the way a more collective society, like people in Ukraine, would respond to a particular tool compared to a more individualistic society like the United States. And I think it's really fascinating. So I just want to call attention to his work. And these pieces are based on his collective lifetime of collective work. And I want to call out a couple of them. The first one is reciprocity. So the idea of reciprocity is that people tend to give back when they've been given something. So the example and the primary research came from what would happen if a waiter in a restaurant offered with the bill a single mint at the end of their meal versus 2 mints at the end of the meal. And the research over and over again has shown that actually, if if a waiter simply gives the patron 2 mints, they actually increase the tip by 14%. This kind of simple uh, uh, execution and idea, it gets missed all the time, and yet it actually makes a difference. I happen to be a customer of a product called Sweetwater, or a brand named Sweetwater. They market musical instruments, and when I buy musical instruments from them, when I buy strings or guitar polish or guitar picks or anything from my instrument, they send me a bag of candy. This is an extremely inexpensive thing to throw in a package, and the candy itself is really cheap. But I have to say that every time I open the package, I look forward to seeing what did they send me this time, because they vary it. And that's another important part of this, is that varying the rewards can be really good as well. But this is all part of reciprocity. I'm developing a relationship. The second one is scarcity. So we all, human beings, are all drawn to things that are more rare. And the great example is like the last flight on the Concorde was sold out years in advance of any other flight on the Concorde, because it was the last one. It was the scarcity aspect of it. Or if you're buying the last TV on the shelf, if you know that it's the last one at that particular price, that becomes a more important purchase for you. So these are great examples of what happens when we feel like we're getting something scarce. Online, this is happening all the time. Amazon reminds us constantly of if other people are looking at something. For instance, this is Zillow, a United States-based real estate offer and offering, and they are saying that this particular home is very, very important, because right in here it's we estimate that this home will sell faster than 92% of the nearby homes. So they're making it more scarce. They're making me, as a potential buyer, think more about what could this be. Maybe I should get in on it. That sounds like a fantastic deal. Use scarcity in developing your relationships with your customers in a persuasive way. Two more that I want to go through rather quickly are authority and consistency. Authority is common throughout the entire world, that we always have this experience of tending to believe someone who is knowledgeable or credible. And a great example of this is when someone, when a call center was operating, they said, "Oh, you know what? You need to speak to Peter, our head of sales. He's had over 20 years of experience selling properties. I'll put you through now." That particular introduction in a study that was done by Cialdini actually increased appointments by 20% and increased the number of signed contracts by 15%, by just making that small change in the introduction to say, "Oh yeah, Peter has 20 years of experience selling properties," instantly introducing him as an authority, as an expert, and as knowledgeable in the business that he's doing. And on consistency, we humans really value the idea that we're going to be consistent with what we say and what we do. And it's very important to remind your customers of the consistency of your brand, to always emphasize the things that you said you were going to do are things that you're doing. A great example was the Drive Safely campaign they put up. They were asking just to put signs in their yards. And they found that when people who originally agreed just to put a small postcard in their front window, later were actually willing to put up a large sign in their yard, simply by having the little small postcard happen up front. So this consistency of, well, I made a small commitment up front to put a small postcard in the front window, but you know what? Now that I'm being asked to put in a larger sign, I guess I'll be consistent because I support the cause. So it's okay to reinforce consistency from your brand as well as from your customers. Liking and unity, just very quickly. Geez, of course, right? People prefer to say yes to those people that they like. So look for opportunities to be liked by your customers, and look for ways to be unified with your customers. Make sure that your customers see you as similar to who they are, or seek out customers who are similar to you. There's no reason to try to do business with companies or individuals who don't have the same value system as you are. Emphasize it, live it, get out in front of it, and just go ahead and be it, because it's a really empowering engagement tool when it comes to a customer continuing to be a lifetime customer. Lastly, I want to just identify consensus. We really rely on social proof. We rely on others. And I talked about this earlier when regarding dog food. If the dog food manufacturer had simply said, there's 200 other customers in your town that already use our product, and we're going to have a get together with all 200 of you, I'd think, oh, I'm not alone. And that's a powerful thing, to feel like I'm part of a community, that there is a consensus among all of us, these like-minded people, that we actually like doing the same thing. And this is a way for us to connect. So overall, engage your customers by listening. Start with compassionate curiosity. You have to start with knowing that they are the source of why you're in business. So let's go to them first. The second thing is to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and start with why they're doing what they're doing now. Don't try to start ahead of the curve. Start with, why are they doing what they're doing now? What got them there? What is the context in which that they have made their decisions to get to where they are now? The third thing is that the map is not the territory. Keep in mind that all the data that you're looking at is actually not an individual. It's not a company. It's not your customer. It is a representation of your customer. And if you want to get to know your customer, you have to visit the territory. And lastly, consider these persuasion principles as very powerful tools that can help you when it comes to engaging your customers better. So get involved in behavioral science. If this engages you at all, if this sparks your curiosity, connect with it, test, try something new, do something different, because we all know that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, well, you're going to get the same results. So thank you.